welcome back to another recipe. Today I wanted to do my version of a sort of seafood boil. I know it's been really popular recently. I wanted to make a more affordable version that's a little more suited to my price range. So I'm just starting off by cutting some squid into little rings. As you can see, sort of 1/2 inch pieces. You can already get this prepared at your fishmonger. That's how I got mine. If not, you can always look up a recipe on how to do that. I'm sure there's plenty out there, but mine came prepared already. So the squid was washed in salted water. You can leave it to sit in that salted water for maybe a good hour. That will help just get rid of that fishy sort of smell. And make sure you do give it a really good rinse, including all the tentacles, because you could find there's mud or sand stuck in these. They are a little bit of a trap, so we're just going to start by cutting these up. So now we're going to prepare the squid tentacles. On mine, the top half is full of cartilage, so I'm going to remove that. Just cut it off. The bottom part is nice and soft, but I don't want to be chewing around a bunch of cartilage. So just get rid of that. So you're just left with the little tentacles. I also have some prawns here. Some have the shell on, some don't. What you might want to do is just cut down the back and remove any vein that might be here. You don't need to worry too much about the one here. It's mainly this one. Some call it the poop chute. It's up to you. Just remove it if it bothers you. These have also been washed in salted water and drained thoroughly. Along with my seafood feast, I've washed some red rooster potatoes and I'm just going to wrap them in some foil, and they're going to go in the oven for about an hour at around 180 to 200 degrees, just until they're really, really soft inside. And I'm also going to boil some eggs. I prefer the red rooster potatoes to normal white potatoes. I feel like when they're roasted, they taste a little sweeter, a little fluffier. The taste is just better, they cook faster. So, yep, that's just a tip for you, but you can use what you prefer or have on hand. I'm going to wrap some corn on the cob in foil. I've washed them, cleaned the husks off, and these are going to go in the oven for maybe another 45 minutes, just so they steam and they're nice and soft and sweet. And now I'm just trimming the ends off some green beans, and these are going to be blanched for about 2 minutes. After trimming the ends off, just roughly chop each one in half, like so. You can just gather them up into a bundle and chop in half. Next, we're going to add the green beans to a pot of boiling water, just for a couple of minutes or until they turn a really bright green. The boiling water just gives them a little shock and brings out that really vibrant, lovely green colour. When your beans have turned a really vibrant green, plunge them into an ice bath of very cold water. This will stop the cooking process and retain that really bright colour. So the beans have cooled and they're still a really nice, vibrant green, and these are going to get sautéed later. Now we're going to start on the mixture the seafood will be cooked in. So I've got a few minced cloves of garlic here, and we're going to add a big block of butter. It's going to look like a lot of butter, and that's because it is. So we're going to add that, and we're going to also add a little bit of olive oil. This is by no means a low-calorie dish, so don't try to trick yourself there. The olive oil just helps the butter stop burning later on in that pan. Next, we're going to start adding black pepper, plenty of it, some salt. This is to your taste. I don't want mine to be massively salty, so I'm not adding too much. And I also know my seafood was washed in salty water, so that in itself is going to make it slightly saltier. I'm also going to add a teaspoon of basil, or however much I can shake out, dried basil, and that's going to get thrown in. A teaspoon of dry parsley. You can add fresh if you prefer. Because I'm going to be using it mainly as a dipping sauce, I'm just using the dry stuff. A small teaspoon of herbe de Provence, or however it's pronounced. This is optional. I do like the flavour it lends, but remember, you don't want to overpower your seafood either when you're adding your marinade. We're going to add 3 teaspoons of paprika. I called it a marinade. This isn't a marinade. It's just going to be a sauce. I might not even add 3 heat teaspoons, but you can always add more later. And again, this is optional, but a little shake of chili flakes. This will just give my dish a little kick. And finally, just a little shake of onion granules. Oh, if it's coming out. It's not coming out. But you could use fresh onion. I'm just using what I have on hand. I don't want a really clumpy sauce here, so I'm just going to use the onion, but not too much of it. If you prefer, you could mince some onion in a blender, completely blend it up, add that to the marinade. I would have done that, however I'm a little limited in my temporary kitchen right now because we are renovating our old kitchen. Finally, if you're able to, mix all the spices together. My butter is a little too hard. That serves me right for using fridge temperature butter, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be melted in a pan later. So this is just an optional step. I think it just makes things a little easier. Right, we're going to start by sauteing some green beans. I just put some olive oil in the pan and just add these in. So we're going to add some salt and pepper. We're going to cook it over a medium-high heat. I'm also going to add a little bit of parsley, dry parsley, and the salt. You can add a tiny little bit of butter, but because I'm using so much with the seafood, I thought I'd skip that. And just saute it until each side sort of blisters and browns slightly. I almost forgot, I'm just going to add a little bit of dried garlic. You could use fresh, but I don't want it to burn in the pan. So I've finished sauteing my beans. As you can see, I just like the edges slightly blistered, but it should still be crispy. And then you can transfer it to a plate for later. So now comes the fun part. We're going to start by melting the butter and the olive oil into a pan. Don't have to be on a massively high heat for now. Just keep it on a medium-low heat. Make sure you get all those spices in there. All those spices in. See that deep red colour? I'm just going to let that butter melt. So now we're going to, when the butter is completely melted and it's on a bubbly sort of heat, we're going to turn it up to medium and we're going to add the prawns first. This will slide off. Just add the prawns in. We're going to give the prawns a little head start over the squid because they'll take slightly longer to cook because they're reasonably large. Just let that cook into the sauce for a couple of minutes. When the prawns have had a few minutes to cook, it's just my mum in the background, add your calamari in gently, and those can cook for another few minutes until they turn from translucent to opaque. They shouldn't take long. You're going to want it on a reasonably high heat, otherwise they will turn rubbery, and mix that into the sauce. Being gentle, you don't want to splash. By this point, my calamari has turned opaque. It's been a few minutes and I'm going to turn off the heat and let it just finish cooking in that heat of the sauce. Make sure you give it final taste for seasonings such as salt and pepper or any other seasonings you feel like you might want to add. When it's finished cooking, just add a little bit of spring onion and that'll give it just a little pop of freshness right at the end. And here our seafood boil, or modified seafood boil, is ready. I just added some spring onions, chopped some lemons. Do make sure you use that, it will just make the flavours pop. And thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the content, please do leave a like, subscribe, click that notification bell, and I'll post as regularly as I can. Thank you.